Why are people so mad about illegals losing their med?
So I once had an undocumented patient present to the emergency room after having collapsed at work. They had a physical job, they were exerting themselves, they passed out. They were brought to the emergency room. Initially, they're like, oh, maybe it's just hot out, and I was just dizzy and tired. But they were really sick when they got to the emergency room. Their blood pressure was low, their heart rate was high, their oxygen was low, their labs were very concerning for anemia, they had abnormal liver enzymes, and part of the initial workup in the emergency room showed that they had likely metastatic colon cancer and a very large blood clot in their lungs, which was putting strain on their heart. So they were admitted to my service for further management. And this was a very complex case. It required a lot of interdisciplinary care with gastroenterologists, oncologists, interventional radiologists, interventional cardiologists, hematologists, because, when we treated their blood clot with blood thinners, that caused their colon cancer to bleed more, and that caused them to become more unstable, require transfusions. So ultimately, with all of this really great care, they were stabilized to the point where they were getting ready to be discharged, but that took about 2 weeks. And over this 2 weeks, I was really able to get to know this person very well because I was the primary care point of their team. And I was like, hey, this just didn't happen overnight. You must have been sick for a while. And they said, yeah, I was feeling really bad for like 6-7 months. But I didn't want to go to the doctors because I'm undocumented. And I heard that if I go to the doctor's office, I could be snatched up and deported. And I don't want to do that. I don't have insurance. I don't have any legal documentation to get me insurance. So I'm afraid if I go to the doctor, I'm going to go broke, that I'm going to have all these bills that I can't pay. And then what they really said, which stuck to me, is like, I'm afraid that they were going to find something. And then I wasn't going to be able to work anymore, and I wasn't going to be able to support my family. And let me tell you, a lot of those fears and concerns that my patient told me were the same fears and concerns that all of my documented American citizen patients tell me every day. And, we're all a lot more similar than you'd like to think. But we were able, because we live in New York, and there's healthcare facilities that receive state funding to provide care for underinsured, uninsured, low income, and undocumented folks. We were able to get this person the interdisciplinary care that they needed as an outpatient so that they can start chemotherapy, start treatment for their cancer, and hopefully continue to improve. But to you, ma'am, I just ask you, what would you do in this situation? What do you want to be done? Because you're very giddy that undocumented folks are losing access to healthcare. So how would you have treated this person? Like when they showed up to the emergency room really sick, would you say, nope, just go die on the street? Or are you okay with them getting the emergency care that they needed to stabilize them under EMTALA, so emergency Medicaid would cover that. But when they get ready to leave the hospital, no, they don't get anything else. They can just die of their cancer or their blood clot without treatment. Because again, like what boggles my mind is that when you say illegals, they are actual human beings attached to that name. They're human beings with feelings, with fears, with hopes, with dreams. They love their family, they go to work, they do all the same things you do. They have the same concerns. They worry about putting food on the table for their family. They worry about where their next paycheck is going to come from. Or, again, like I said, you have a lot more in common with the undocumented immigrant in my story than you do with Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. So, what is your suggestion here? Just send them back to their home country where they're going to get treatment? Well, they can't do that. They're too sick to travel. They don't have money to travel. And they've been in this country for the last 3.5 decades. So they don't have established roots in that country. This is their country now. So I don't understand. The lack of humanity is just mind-boggling to me. I don't know. Maybe it makes me woke. It makes me a soft beta soy liberal, whatever. I don't know. But the cruelty here is, I don't know. It seems to be a feature and not a bug with you folks.